On the 23rd of October 1944, the first engagements of a gigantic naval battle began on the Philippine Sea. It was the biggest in modern human history. Over a period of 3 days, and more than 300 US warships facing 70 Japanese vessels, the Americans had no fewer than 34 aircraft carriers, with 1,500 aircraft on board. Their fleet outnumbered the Japanese 5-1. This battle had two major effects. It prevented the Japanese interfering with the American invasion of the Philippines, and also knocked out the Imperial Japanese Navy throughout the whole period of World War II. Nearly 30 Japanese vessels were sunk, and many of the remainders were damaged, including the biggest warship ever built, the Yamato. One of the battles would see a small task force of mainly destroyers and unmanned aircraft carriers against a much larger fleet of Japanese formations with much better firepower. This battle took place off the island of Samar, and it massively outnumbered the small US flotilla. But they tried to battle overwhelming odds, and they pressed on their home attack against the much larger and better armed Japanese ships. The US resisted fiercely, and this even prompted the Japanese commander to turn his fleet around, believing he is now facing the bulk of the US force. These small American destroyers kept getting closer and closer to the Japanese warships, trying to prevent them using their long-range firepower. The small US force prevented a potential massacre if they did not use their bravery to get up close. However, getting close to these large ships are going to have casualties. 5 of the 13 US ships were sunk, and one of them was a destroyer called USS Johnston. Just after 7 o'clock in the morning, it was hit by shells from the Yamato, the largest ship within the Japanese Navy. However, it might have been hit, but it fought on for another 2 hours against a far superior enemy. With such bravery, the ship now was getting hit by several shellings from the Yamato. The battleship was badly wounded. It is now all about when it's going to sink, not if. There is even one account of one of the survivors of that day saying that the Japanese captain was saluting them as they went beneath the waves. What a brave story. Sadly, of the 327 crew, 186 went down with that ship. Where it sunk, off the Samar Islands, there is a vast marine canyon known as the Philippine Trench, which runs for about 820 miles along the Philippines and Indonesia coastline. The USS Johnston sunk to the Philippine Trench, which is around 10,000 meters deep. Now, to imagine how deep that is, we can put it into miles. 6.2 miles deep. This is one of the deepest seas known to man. It would take 75 years before we see this ship again. Astonishingly, the ship is in remarkable condition considering the shelling and the pressures the ship is under at these depths. Please do check out my other videos, and subscribe and like.